Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to be giving you just a few different exercises to help you with hand independence on the piano. One of the key features of the piano that doesn't appear in many other instruments is the fact that your hands are doing different things at the same time, and a lot of people find it hard to make one hand do something while the other hand's doing something different. There are a few mindset changes you can make when reading piano music or when playing the piano that can help you give the appearance of hand independence as well. But in this video I'm going to give you a few different exercises that can help you actually make your hands a bit more independent. But before we do that, let's talk about these mindset changes. So when reading piano music, most of the time people are worrying about reading one hand and then reading the other hand and finding it hard to get the hands to do different things at the same time. Well, when you're actually reading music, what you should be doing is thinking about the music vertically. So you're reading both hands at the same time, or right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand throughout the piece of music. And this will help you categorize things vertically and as chords as one thing between the hands rather than as two different things happening at the same time. Because ultimately when you're listening to music, you are hearing one thing. You're not hearing multiple different things in different hands. You're hearing the music collectively. So you want to try and read it that way as well. And this is the same for when you're actually playing it on the piano. What you should be doing is you should be thinking about things as one unit between the two hands rather than as hands doing separate things. However, there are several different circumstances on the piano where needing your hands to do things separately while you're thinking about one hand or the other is very useful. So it's useful to be able to have these exercises to get your hands to be able to do that. And there are several different types of hand independence. So the first one we're going to talk about is volume independence, and by this I'm talking about dynamics. So trying to get one hand to be louder than the other hand, or trying to get one finger on one hand louder or quieter than the rest of your fingers. So the exercise I would use to combat this is an exercise based on triads, and a triad is just a simple chord, and you can find that by playing one note and then skipping a key and then playing another key and then skipping a key and playing another key, like this. So if you shape a triad in both hands, it doesn't really matter where on the piano this actually is, but you can find the triad anywhere on the piano and play them together. The exercise here is to try and get each of these notes in the triad to be the loudest. So you're going to start with the top note, the very top note in the right hand, and you're going to try and make that the loudest while playing all of the other notes in both hands as well. So let's have a go. So hopefully you can clearly hear there that that G, that note there, is the loudest note out of those notes. So you can do this with every note in these two hands. So let's try one at a time, see if you can hear the difference. So hopefully you can hear there that each of the notes has more importance in each time I played it, so that you can hear that different notes are a priority. This is something that's actually really quite difficult to do, but if you just spend a bit of time trying to focus on just one of those notes at a time, then you'll really get there. And this is the sort of technique that comes up on piano all the time. You always want to make a clear melody when you're playing something very lyrical, for example. And if you can do this, then you'll be able to do that. If this is something that you find particularly challenging, you can start by just trying to create independence of hands with volume. So if you just play two notes on the piano, the same note an octave apart, so two different versions of the same note, such as a C and a C, you can try and create the same effect by making the right hand louder than the left hand and vice versa. So we start with the right hand, and then the left hand. And the trick is to try and not do what I just did, which is to go. You've got to try and get them down at exactly the same time, but try and play them independently. There we go. And you can do this throughout the whole scale if you wanted to. If you are someone that knows how to play scales and you do these as part of your regular practice, you can do something like this. And play each of the notes of the scale so that you're alternating between hands to make one louder and then one quieter. The next type of hand independence that we're going to talk about is rhythmic independence, and this is the one that you are probably most familiar with when it comes to talking about hand independence. This is the one where when people start learning piano, they think, I don't know how you can do two different things with your hands at the same time, and that's because usually the hands are playing two different rhythms. If the hands were playing the same rhythms but just two different notes, then that would be a lot easier than playing two completely separate ideas in both hands. So the exercise that I'm going to give you for this is an exercise that's more based around trying to hear different rhythms in both hands. Because as I said at the beginning of this video, largely what you'll want to do is try and think of things collectively. So if there is difficult rhythms across the hands, try and think of it as one complicated rhythm rather than two different rhythms at the same time. But in order to try and get your mind set so that you can hear different things in different hands while playing them at the same time, we're going to use something called polyrhythms. And this is where you're playing different numbers of notes in different hands. So for this, we're going to play 3 notes in the right hand in the same amount of time it's going to take us to play 2 notes in the left hand. In other words, the right hand is going to play triplets, which is 3 notes, and the left hand is going to play duplets, which is 2 notes. So we're going to use the same shape that we used before. We're going to use just a normal chord triad shape, which is a play a note, miss a note, play a note, miss a note, play a note. And we're just going to try and play it in this pattern. So we're going to play the first note, the last note, and then the middle note, and then repeat. And that's going to be the group of 3 in the right hand. Now in the left hand, we're going to miss out that middle note, and we're just going to play the outer 2 notes of that shape. Now mathematically, in order for us to play both of those hands at the same time, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to divide one rotation of the sets of notes into parts. So in the left hand, it's going to take 50% of the time to play the first note and 50% of the time to play the second note. In the right hand, you're going to be playing 33% of the time, 33% of the time, and 33% of the time because there's 3 notes. And what this means is that the left hand's second note is going to go in between the second and third right hand note. And now I know that that sounds very, very complicated, and hopefully it won't seem that complicated once I've played it. But essentially you're going to play the first 2 notes together, then you're going to play the right hand note, then the left, then the right. And it's going to sound something like this. Now you can slow that down, so something like this. But the idea here is that you are trying to make it so that your left hand is very even, playing 2 notes per beat, let's say, and the right hand is also playing it very even, but it's playing 3 notes per beat. And if you just shift your focus with your ears from the left hand to the right hand, you'll hear that they're actually playing very evenly in time. So let's do that. I'll say left or right, and I want you to focus on my hands playing one or the other. So we'll start with the right, playing 3 at a time. Left. And hopefully you can hear that both of those hands are playing evenly so that they're not stopping and starting or there's no random rhythms going on. Both the hands are playing 2 completely separate rhythms at the same time. You can expand on this exercise and take it a step further by playing 4 notes in the right hand against 2 in the left, or 5 in the right hand against 2 in the left, or 2 against 3 and swap the hands over. There's various different things you can do with this to try and promote hand independence. But that's just one way of starting out and just getting used to that hand independence in rhythms. These are just a few exercises to focus on a few key points of hand independence. That's focused on rhythms, and that's also focused on trying to create different dynamics and volumes between the 2 hands. If you have any experience with hand independence or struggling with hand independence, then let me know in the comments. And before you go into this video, be sure to hit me with a big like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.